5% deposit scheme introduced 2 months ago. What we're actually seeing is an explosion. Is this real station?
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Billy
Good morning,
Drury,
guys.
the old. How are you? The old man stuck in a young man's body. How are you today? How are you? How are you?
I'm good. I did a quite an amazing thing on the weekend. Cooked my first roast dinner in 23 years. Is that an
How'd
old
that
man
go
thing
for
to
you?
do?
It's pretty impressive. Who'd you feed?
I've had my brother. He did help, so it was a bit of a joint effort, and his girlfriend. So it was three of us for dinner. It was nice. That's what you do in your
And
first home.
where'd you get the chook from?
Audi, go Audi. Loving Audi shopping. Big supporter.
Ooh,
Yeah,
loving it.
this is what you
So
do when you move out.
you're one of these guys. First home buyer, a fob,
I'm a
FHOB.
fob.
First home
Yep,
occupier. What is it? First home owner buyer.
fine. Yeah. So what we're talking about this
What do you know?
the 5% deposit scheme came in from the 1st of October this year. It gave first home buyers the opportunity to enter the market with just a 5% deposit instead of the usual 20%. It meant that they don't pay lenders mortgage insurance for the difference of the 15%. This scheme removed, importantly, the income caps, because previously a lot of people were out of that scheme because they earned too much money. They were not eligible. And it was a bit of a double-edged sword, because if you earned too much money, you weren't eligible. If you didn't earn enough money, you couldn't get a loan in the first place. So it didn't really apply to that many people. So they opened it up, and they lifted the property price caps as well. But here's what we're seeing on the ground. So, I guess what this enabled people to do is go out and buy $1 million property, and all they needed to worry about was their 50%. Their 50 grand, $50,000 in savings. That's what they needed to worry about.
Yep.
Here's what we're
It's
seeing on the
something
ground.
that something I'm noticing, Billy. It's quite hard to get the money. So even if you've got the deposit, what people are forgetting is for a $650,000 loan, these first home buyers need to be earning in the order of 120 or 130K.
Yeah, it's a lot of
That's
money.
that's a bucket load of money. So I know everyone's stressing that they're going, oh, yes, it's terrible. It's creating an artificial market. It's creating a bubble, bubble, all the bubble talk. But it's like you do need to have some serious income to get the loan.
Yeah, it's big for a single salary. I think a bit more achievable. We're seeing a lot of couples doing this together, and often the savings isn't the trouble they've had. Like with a 5% deposit on a really good salary, that's not the trouble they've got. You're right. It's just getting the loan. But it is a bit of a controversial topic. This, like a lot of people have spoken out about how they see this 5% deposit making property a lot more expensive for buyers. Now we're 2 months in, we're starting to see the impacts of this, and I'm calling it now. I think the people that have been able to access this deposit in the first wave, and that's pretty much like this first 3 months, have grabbed it with both hands. They're loving it from the buyer's perspective. They're using it to the point now where, have a look at this, the average numbers of people taking this up increased 34% throughout the state for first home buyer applications for assistance schemes. It's up 34% just in that 2-month period.
Big number.
And 1 in 10
34.
properties sold in October. 1 in 10 properties sold in October were to a first home buyer using this assistance scheme. So it's a huge part of the market.
Not as big as what I thought.
Well, I reckon that's pretty big when you think of the investors. You think of people changing property for a second time. Like, this is only applicable to people that are buying their first home and then meet those certain requirements. Not everyone's using it.
Interesting. Interesting. So I guess in summary, word on the street, yes, we're seeing the last 2 months a lot more purchases that are out and about. Yes, they're it's up 34% in for October alone. I think you'd find even November the take up would have been stronger again, but we'll wait for that data to come through. What else do we see, Bill?
Here's another way to measure it. Daily Telegraph had it at national home price rise is 1.1% in October alone. That's the strongest monthly increase since June 2023. So there's 2 years there where they've seen more growth in average prices in 1 month than 2 years before that. Pretty strong.
It's pretty strong. It doesn't do good things for interest rates. I think everyone is expecting the rates to come down, and because of this strong real estate data, these strong increases coming through, I think it's less likely. And it's another indicator.
Yeah.
But that's if it's doing about 10% a year. So that's sitting at about. Did you say 1 point what?
1.1% just in the month of October.
So that's probably like 13% over a year if it did that every month, which is not a huge real estate year, but not bad, not bad.
Yeah, and I guess like this is focused towards property prices sub $1.5 million, but it does kick through. So what people don't realize is that everyone is getting a little bit more of and everyone is getting a little bit more of a loan, given to them, and then that fuels prices.
And an observation that I always talk about is I've seen house prices in our area do beyond double in 10 years, that's done about 120% for houses in our area, and units have probably only done about 60%, 70%. So I think that it was a little bit overdue for units to kick along. So I know the first home buyer 5% deposit stimulus is aiding that, but it was probably overdue to do that anyway.
Yeah, like it's interesting. There's lots of numbers to throw around here. Another fact I've got here is that it's larger homes and bigger borrowing. The average first home buyer's expected purchase price rose from $599,000 last year to $637,000 in 2025. But that extra, 38 grand, it, as I say, kicks through all price points. So you can expect people moving up and upgrading. So don't think this doesn't apply to you if you're not quite in that price point. It definitely does.
I'm starting to see now the sentiment for the whole first home buyer scheme. I don't feel like it's being embraced by everyone. I think everyone's happy about it. Everyone thinks we're creating a bubble. Not everyone, but I'm seeing parts of the market that are saying that, which I thought is interesting because I think you generally like to champion any sort of incentive to first home buyers the government can give, and you think good on you guys, well done. It's good to help the young ones get into the market. But there's people that are not championing it at the moment, saying it's just creating this bubble and it's artificial, and these guys are getting into too much debt.
Yep, but I don't think they're the people taking it up. Like, there is a demand there for it. There's mixed numbers here, but whether it's 34% increase on people taking it up or 50% year on year, the bottom line is it's being served up on a plate and people are taking it. People want it.
Oh, look, and you're not feeding the kids ice cream. This first home buyer thing is not feeding people ice cream. It's giving them good patterns whilst early. Do you know what I mean? So it's getting them onto sort of steak and veg of properties and mortgages and stuff like that. So I think it's a healthy diet, and maybe it hasn't been served up like it should, but I think at the end of the day, it is great that there's a first home buyer incentive out there. We should be championing it more. It's great that these guys are getting on to how to pay a mortgage and how to get a loan and doing this into the Australian property market. And if it's at the risk of creating a potential bubble for people out there, then there's always going to be, you do this, you should have done that. You do that, you should have done this. There's always going to be that counter argument to any of this stuff.
But if I was a buyer and I was pre-approved or had a salary to get a mortgage, I would be acting quick and getting in with the first wave, because if you don't, you hesitate, you will pay more. If you don't, you hesitate, they may not leave this on the table forever. If it gets that controversial or the numbers just keep going the way they are, they will probably just take it off the table. And we've seen that before. It changes with government, and it changes with the number of places that were available at any one time. So, morning, Brendan. Hope you're well. Brendan says, I bought a house in 2007 with a 5% deposit. That net house is now worth 4 times what it was. Stretch as far as possible that you can afford. Banks are conservative on their lending. There you go. I couldn't agree more.
I think you just said it in a couple of sentences, the whole thing. I know people think that they're that the first home buyers are taking out too much of a loan, or they're just going too hard in the property market. But the banks are pretty conservative. And I do have to say, in our market, seeing arrears or seeing people come to us that saying we can't afford to hold the property any longer. We had 13 interest rate rises in DY units, houses, all that market. There wasn't a bad mop up. There wasn't bad arrears. There wasn't like, we're stuffed, we're selling for less than what we bought it for. Oh my God, what are we going to do? We didn't have any of those conversations with people. So I still think it goes back to good old fashioned A-grade real estate. If you stick to good areas, and if you're just always going to be okay. It's good, positive stuff.
Yeah. There you go. I think 3 years factually is the hardest part of buying and owning. It's when your repayments are at the highest, and it's when your loans at its largest amount as well. 3 years, that's the tough part.
And these first home buyers, some of them have the ability to go back to stay with family and rent out the asset, which, with the way rents are going, it's not that much of a debt cover after rent comes in. So I can't see the bubble. I can't see the bubble bursting.
We sold a property 6 weeks ago, and the mortgage repayments after Strata Water Council mortgages paid rents in $89 a week out of pocket for the owner. $89.
Right. So even if you run for the hills, rent it out, and then go and live with going a rental with a whole bunch of buddies, or go back to your parents or something like that, there's backup plans behind it.
Yeah. There you go. Controversial 5% deposit covered. Thanks
Big time. Thanks, Billy. See you, everyone. Have a great day.
Have a good day.
Bye.